free expression of thought. There's something wrong with our society. It is visible, invisible, evident, and self-evident. The world we grew up in is being modified, and it is happening in front of our eyes. Our inherent rights as human beings is being removed by complacency, corruption, and realignment of social values and hereditary beliefs. The new woke model of insurgency is blatantly displayed by malevolent forces vying for control of the political narrative and control of ideas. Distorted in self-righteous adherence to a foundation of oppression and suppression, these tyrants will exude their unjust influence upon the citizens of the United States until all resistance to compliance is removed and conformity with blanket acceptance to the narrative of truth is thrust upon civilization. The free expression of thoughts without censorship or dilution is of paramount importance to Western civilization. We live in a world where a voice has meaning. Our thoughts, admirations, disgust, and discontentment within our world is meant to be vocalized and expressed without repercussion. We are at an amazing time in U.S. history where thoughts and ideas are being weaponized and restricted. This course of oppression and tyrannical nature must cease to exist from Western society. Our integrated society has always worked on an ebb and flow of public opinion where popularity of ideas has changed as vigorously as the wind and political narratives. Small and content to this new movement from fundamental radicals to weaponize speech as a segment of American populace for the gain of political standing and power. Over the past 30 years, we have experienced a victimization of a specific population density by design, a force of long-term enslavement brought upon by self-belief and ideology. The pace of this shift to constituted belief structure has increased astronomically in the previous 2 years and has brought about a small but significant rise of fundamentalists who believe the very survival of the species is at stake. Tolerance of ideas and thought with free expression has faded from public view and has become restrictive by government control and scrutiny. Considerable right imperial power over the general population has brought about a resistance to a tyrannical rule over ideas. This point was brought to hone during the events of the presidential election. Control, suppression, victimization, and overreach by the establishment have isolated and restricted large segments of the population. Distortion and disbelief by opposition is a natural concourse of ideas, and this model is completely agreeable within our societal model, and as it happens, helps advance the expression of thoughts. However, when there ceases to be the ability or the regard to have ideas or the expressions of thoughts expressed, this leads to suppression and anger. This buildup of resentment within the societal fabric seeks as a catalyst to a pending rise in riots, censorship, and a separation of society. Normal interaction already seeks to pull one's attention into comfort zones within the like-minded groups. By not allowing voices of concern or disagreement to be heard, we only seek to enslave these groups, furthering the chain of self-isolation. By no manner within the course of human history has the challenge as great as what we currently face existed. By the tech oligarchs, censorship and suppression of a specific political ideology in favor for a different viewpoint have left many feeling isolated, unheard, and betrayed. Such a course cannot exist if society is to progress. Many will suspect that these incidents are isolated by a restricted segment of the population, as we have seen from the recent purge on social media. This is not the case, and our elected officials have only sought to stoke the flames of division. So what is the prudent course to allow for the free expression of ideas and thought without censorship or restriction? That is the question at hand. We have two paths as I see it. 1. Continue the course of restriction and censorship and embolden one political narrative for another, thus by silencing a considerable population density. This course has grave repercussions to our way of life. This notion that opinions are to be deemed too detrimental and of action illegal is the most repressive course I have ever experienced in my life. This course will lead only to one path, separation. The amassing of considerable power and voice by one narrative and the silencing and suppression of another. When people are pushed into a corner without a voice or a means to escape, this path can only lead us to war. This is the path we are currently on, that has one road through the broken remains of what was once a free nation to a transformative design that has been encountered many times throughout human history. If history teaches us anything, is that it repeats itself with relative certainty. 2. The second path is to divert the dam, to allow for the immediate expression of all ideas and thought in the public square. This action must be managed from the top down, in uncertainty, context, and design, the least feasible to our current environment. We have already seen that the powers of the central government do not seek a partnership with the population they claim to serve. They have repeatedly sided with tyrannical enforcement and suppression avenues, i.e. media and political narratives, and have gone to considerable lengths to ensure that these narratives are firmly entrenched within the populace. All opposition to the central message has been removed, disenfranchising millions of free Americans. We are on a course that has a name of governmental overreach and restriction, the militant state. Where we go from here is completely dependent on the resolve of the population of the United States and its ability to unify towards a common goal. This is a considerable request, as many narratives exist within the same thought line, distorting and diluting what is most important to the continuation of our way of life. My fellow Americans, we are on the precipice of either the next period of enlightenment of society or the end of the Republic and the repurposing of the United States for consumptive power to enrich a few. Which path we will take is still in the wind.